for all the nostalgic shows people like to talk about, I'm surprised that people don't bring up Xiaolin Showdown all that much because it was genuinely fun and really likable. For those of you who don't remember it, it was a show about 4 martial arts students who retrieve magical artifacts known as Shangang Wu before a series of bad guys can get to them first and use for ultimate power. It was a really creative, fun, engaging, likable show. I really liked the characters. They had a variety of personalities. There was some continuity. The Shangang Wu were all really creative and had a variety of powers. It was a really fun world. You got to see them travel to different places. You got to see the characters. They had these big moments, but at the same time, they worked off each other and they had these really small, nice character moments. They had their awkwardness and their dorkability. They had different personalities. Sometimes they clashed, but at the same time, you really felt that these characters liked each other, and it was such a fun world they were in. Their day-to-day lives had a similar appeal to Teen Titans in that you did see the fun day-to-day, the smaller moments in between the superhero stuff. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I remember a lot of people liked either Raymundo or Kimiko best, 2 members of the team, but I actually really liked Clay the Cowboy because he was really laid back and just really fun, really easygoing, so mellow. So likable there. The animation was really nice. They had a lot of fun action scenes. The stories were creative. And there was a sense of continuity before you really saw that in cartoons. My major theory as to why a lot of people don't talk about it as much is because Avatar: The Last Airbender came out 2 years later, and of course, it became a phenomenon. So I think, and there's been a series of shows that were inspired by Asia, by anime. So I think in between that, Xiaolin Showdown just got lost in the mix, but there was a lot of fun to it, and the characters were likable. I remember a lot of the villains really well. I remember they had your typical pathetic villain, Jack Spicer, he was a really good comedic villain, but then they had a few legitimately intimidating villains. There was a Spirit Wuya, there was Hannibal Roy Bean, who for such a silly little character was surprisingly intimidating. Of the intimidating villains, I think there was one called Chase Young. He was my favorite. I remember feeling like this guy always felt like he was 3 steps ahead of the group. He always felt like he was in charge, and he was so tough to beat. So therefore the stakes were higher and you just wanted the main characters to succeed. Yeah, the creative decisions, the characters, the show, it was all really fun. It was a really fun, engaging show. It had a lot of comedy to it. It was definitely one of the first times I was noticing more adult jokes in a kid's cartoon, stuff that I wouldn't have been able to pick up very easily. But this was the show where I was starting to notice it, and I found it very funny. It didn't feel distracting. It was definitely a show that you could gently poke fun at, and but in a very lighthearted way, and I see a lot of that online. I remember seeing a lot of videos on YouTube where people would dub these characters, the Xiaolin Showdown characters, with Adam Sandler movies or South Park, and that was always very funny. But the show had a very good foundation for that. It's not one you watch to make fun of, it's one that's genuinely fun and likable and creates such a fun atmosphere of that you really want to be in. You want to have these powers, you want to use these artifacts. It'd be fun to ask, oh, what would you do with this artifact? What powers would you have? All that fun stuff. Yeah, I don't have too much to say on it, but I definitely remember it. I remember really liking it and having a ton of fun with it. Mostly just want to get that out there because for shows people like to remember, this is a good one to revisit once or twice. It's creative.